Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 2023 first edition of DREIA's Street Talk. Already in 2023 here, mid-January, our partners in the DREIA partner system have had 3 contracts for land purchase accepted, and all 3 were fraudulent. How do we know? Well, the fraud has gotten so bad, before we really move on a contract, we send it to the title agent to vet. In these cases, it was Jim Santiago of Florida's Best Title. So far, he's 3 for 3 for us and says he's had several others. So Jim, what's going on out there?
There is a growing risk of property fraud from fraudulent sellers selling properties that they don't own and are assuming the identity of a property owner with the same name and trying to use that as a sales as the seller of a property. Over the last 4 to 6 months, we have seen this problem exacerbate and, go between me getting 1 to 2 of these potential issues a year to up to 5 to 6 a month we're seeing, and it's getting worse. The holiday season was, if 2023 was, of 2022 was extremely bad. We were seeing a lot of investors get these contracts, and when requesting the seller information to vet for them, we are finding a very large number of them are not the accurate people that are trying to sell the property, and are either trying to assume the identity of the person and get a notary to notarize the sale docs on their behalf, or they're faking the notarization and getting it transferred. We have come up with some very good techniques to vet before we even get to that point in our title company, but we're also working on getting processes in place to prevent that, as well as, educating our consumers, our people buying properties, people selling properties, to be aware of this issue, and trying to get more people educated and having more enlightenment about the potential for real estate fraud. We're talking about, not somebody stealing $5,000, $10,000 of your crypto money. We're talking about somebody stealing 100, 200, 400, $1 million property from somebody, cashing out from the sale of that, leaving somebody with a piece of land, and then somebody coming back and saying they own that land because they're the rightful owner of it, and the other person who got the money from the sale is long gone. Now, that is one of the reasons you buy title insurance. It is going to be protection for you, but for your purchase of the property. But this is something that, even if you do purchase the property and you do get title insurance, you're going to be investing a lot of money and time into your purchase of your real estate. It's a very large asset for most people. Typically, it's the largest asset that people own, and it's important for people to not only try to avoid those problems by using good professional title agents, attorneys, and real estate agents, but also being aware of it and trying to vet those, because you don't want to waste a bunch of time and guarantee your sale for a piece of property or guarantee your purchase for a piece of property, start getting all your resources in place, and then all of a sudden I call you up and say, hey, listen, this person is not who he says he is, and he is not the actual owner of the property. I spoke to the actual owner of the property, and they're telling me that they don't want to sell the property. They never agreed to it, and somebody else is doing so. I wanted to go over a little bit with you today, Jim, about some different scheme techniques that I've been seeing out there in some different places. Do you have any questions for me as of now?
No, I'm just riveted. I want to hear how we can possibly figure this out.
Really, it comes down, there is no perfect way that we've been seeing to identify property fraud, people trying to attempt property fraud. Property fraud is, very specific. Somebody is defrauding something in a real estate on behalf of real estate, either that be fraudulent sellers, fraudulent buyers, fraudulent funding, fraudulent, any kind of fraud issues that relate to property is something that, has been happening for hundreds of years since real estate business started. But this specific issue really stems from identity theft, which we all understand and know. When it comes to our credit reports, we put security on there. We look for freezing our credit. We're looking at our credit card fraud. We see all these issues, but we don't think about our real estate being one of these things that people can do. There's a lot of roadblocks and speed humps that people need to use, that people need to overcome. But when you really think about the basics of what's happened over the last 4 years in regards to the technology, as well as the speed of a real estate transaction, the financial risk that comes from multiple factors inside of a real estate transaction, it's important for somebody to try to hedge off these problems ahead of time. You know, really what we've been saying is people going online and buying and trying to submit offers, investors trying to submit offers onto properties that are listed on websites that don't require a real estate agent. That be Zillow, Realtor.com, Craigslist, all these different places where you can just list a piece of property, and a person can list a piece of property, and there's no checks and balances that these websites require for you to prove that you own your property. All it does is say, let's fill out a form, you link it to Google Maps, and boom, you can offer a property on there. You know, I could do that to 100 different properties that I don't own, just saying that my name is Daniel Jones. If my name was Daniel Jones, I could probably search that in public record in Broward County and find myself 100, 200 properties that are owned by them at a minimum. If I want something as simple as Steve Smith, I could probably find 20,000. And if I could just create an email address that says steve.smith14@gmail.com, I can do that 1,000 times, 1,000 different email addresses, and submit myself as the owner of all those properties on those listing sites and sell them. So there's some important information you need to do when you're making an offer on a property. This is something realtors do when they list property to make sure that they're dealing with the right person. The first part is look the property up online. Not on the website that you're seeing the listing, but going to the property appraiser for that county. You can go to my website, flbesttitle.com, right here, and there's links to the major, the large county property appraisers. But the easiest thing to do is just Google that county's property appraiser, or even just that city if you're not aware of that county's property appraiser, and search for that address. The name of the owner will pop up, whoever's on public record. And I understand that that's not a certified ownership record, but it is a good place to start because that is what the county is identifying as the owner at that time. And it's a good way for you to start. So is this the person you're talking to is the next step that you need to figure out. You need to figure out how do you find out if that person's really who they say they are. And the way we do it is a pretty simple step, right? We look at the property, look at the information on the ownership record of that property, including their name, the spelling, middle initials, the mailing address, not just the property address, the mailing address, as well as the mailing address, as well as the kind of the title history of the property, how long it's been owned, who's been paying those real estate taxes is an important segue to see if it's proof. All the property appraisers websites will have a link to the tax record in Florida. It's public record, and you can view the receipt for the payment. Calling the tax collector, they all answer the phone. They don't have anything else other than to talk to people and collect money. So they will absolutely tell you who's paid those taxes. It is public record, and they should have a record of it, at least within the last 4 to 5 years, which is really what you care about. The last time since somebody transferred that and owned that property to today, or when you're looking at that property, is really the most important part. Check that that person that you're talking to is the same name as the person that's paying the taxes. If it's a servicer and a lender, that's also a good sign because that means that there's a third party there that you're going to have to get information for. Ask for a driver's license. Asking for a driver's license, seeing what it's like. And then when they give you the driver's license, look at it. Is the text a different size? Is the different font than what you would see on your Florida's driver's license? Or if they send you a random one from a different state, but the mailing address on the property appraiser is different, that should be a red flag. That should be something that's making your gut curl a little bit. The other thing, if they give you that driver's license and a question, ask for something random. We do it all the time, asking for utility bills, asking for proof of a payment of a utility bill. How fishy is this? You want to make sure that if it's fishy, you want to try to get specific that somebody that owns that property has been maintaining it, actually doing it, can show you that they are the owners of that property. It's tough because this is not necessarily a perfect system, but it is a way to work through it to a point that you're trying to get your best case of confidence that this is the right individual that you're working with. All right. Asking for, like I said, a utility bill. asking for proof of the payment of the taxes. We found that this is a good technique for it here. And then, do they have a mortgage on the property? The specific target of these kind of property theft is, that we've been seeing, real estate property theft has really been focused right now, and it's been going in. We've had other occurrences, but really vacant land with no lien on it, meaning no mortgage, no encumbrance. It makes it a very easy closing and can be done very quickly, but at the same time, we don't have to get more information on behalf of that seller. So it enables them to have less roadblocks to proving to us that they're the real person. So if we need mortgage information to pay off a mortgage that's on a piece of property, that's information they have to get somehow to give to us. And if we get that from them, we know that it's at least a little more assurance that that's the right person. Again, I said that these people are going after vacant land. That's non-occupied property. But they're also going after single family homes. Condos, we don't see too much because there is that that condo association or homeowners association level that we're going to have to deal with. And they don't go after those because that's another notification that the real owner could get if that somehow triggers some kind of notification to the owner that the HOA has. We haven't seen those, but it's not impossible. This is all these places are subject to fraud. We've seen people try to attempt it at $1.5 million properties, all the way down to $4,000, $2,000 sales. The trending thing that we see is that it was an online listing, that's how we got it, that it is somebody that is demanding a quick closing. And then the third biggest red flag is that they will not answer the phone. They will text, they will email, but they will not answer the phone for you. They won't call you. They do all these different things that try to avoid you actually having some kind of contact with them from a verifiable source. And picking up the phone and talking to somebody seems to be the real kind of playing field level. Are they answering the phone? And when they answer the phone, do they sound like somebody that's owned this property for a while, or do they sound like somebody that's pushing you to do something that you shouldn't do? Have you ever gotten those phone calls from people from the IRS on the other line saying you need to pay your taxes or we're putting you in jail? That's the same temperament that we've been seeing people get when the people actually do answer the phone. But if they don't, it's something. If you're only getting text messages, or you call and you get a text message back, or you don't get a response for 3 to 6 days, and you're sending text messages, and then they send one-word answers back, be wary, because somebody that is trying to drive you to do a sale is going to try to be cooperative. And if they're not being cooperative, even on a legitimate transaction, that's something you need to red flag, because they will have to deal with the sale process somehow and be cooperative. So if they're not being cooperative, it is a time for you to really take into account what that sale really means and what it can be, what can be a problem with it, and as well as the people that you're working with. We had an example of one the other day. One of your students took a listing from Zillow, was adamant that this was the real person, that they had talked to him on the phone. And when we did some due diligence in it, I had gotten the information that the investor had gotten from the listing and from the person he'd been communicating with the offer. When I went and did some little back searching, I was able to find online some contact information for somebody with that name, with the mailing address that's on there. And it was a different phone number. And I called that phone number, and this lady picked up and told me that she was not looking to sell her property. Her dad had given her this property, which was confirmed by me from just looking at the property appraiser's sale history. There was an inheritance of that property, and the mailing address was across the street. And her telling me she was not trying to sell the property, she had not agreed to sell the property, and that she had been receiving some phone calls about selling her property, but she had not agreed to any sales and had not signed a contract. So to me, and we had also at the same time, when we were vetting this, we had asked for a driver's license. And unfortunately, when I described the person on the driver's license, it was a legitimate 180 of the different type of person that we were talking about, from the identification to what she was identifying herself to me as. And so obviously we were dealing with some some fraud, and we were definitely something we let our people know about. I let the investor know about it. And the funny thing was, another one of my clients emailed this exact same property to me 2 weeks later. So not only did they not stop when we stopped the sale, they tried to do it again. So it was another thing. And I had been through a couple of these and I had actually forgotten that I had given this lady a phone call and found this information kind of in the same process and called her. And she's like, oh, you're the one that called me 2 weeks ago about this. There's another person trying to buy my house or buy my property. And, me and her talked, and I was trying to give her some, guidance and to talk to a real estate attorney about how to really try to stop this issue with her. It's something that is going to become bigger and bigger problem over the years as closings progressively technology is going to allow closings to progressively get quicker, which is going to, things slip through the cracks when things go fast. The faster you go, the more out of control things can get faster. If you ever driven a car on the ice, the faster you get, the harder it is to stop. And it gets, when money's involved, people push. And I understand that there's a lot of want for transactions to go through and need for transactions to go through. It is my business because we don't get paid unless the deal closes. So our job is to close transactions, but it's also to ensure the ownership of that property. So really, I've had to become, an unofficial expert at identification and, as a notary. For the first gift my mom gave me as my 18th birthday was a class to become a notary. So I've been a notary for almost 20 years. And it is something that, I have always been worried in the back of my head as a notary. Everyone around me, everyone in my office, I preach, you need to be a notary. It is something that's really beneficial for the real estate business. It's something that everybody needs multiple times a year in their life. And, identity theft is going to become the hardest problem. We now have extra resources and great tools for notarization. And there are state and government websites that will allow us to vet driver's licenses and vet identifications, but they're not perfect systems. And they can't, it's not hard to get a list of everybody's driver's licenses in the county. If any real estate investor knows, you can basically get anybody to give you any information if you try hard enough to get it. And I think over the time, it's just going to get worse and worse. We all know that. And I think it's just a good idea for people to try to keep that in mind. So before I summarize everything, Jim, is there any questions that I should ask?
Do these fraudsters actually come to closing, Jim?
So no, if anybody, another red flag that we've seen, which is a little farther than I wanted to get into in regards to this, is that they're always asking for us to send them when we've seen these issues get farther down the line where somebody's good enough to kind of get past these guidelines, all the notices that we get from our underwriters, all the people that are actually seeing thousands of transactions a month and are paying for these fraudulent claims with the title insurance, they're constantly giving us notices. One of the red flags they're always saying is that the title companies need to look out for anybody asking for us to send them the closing documents and them execute everything by themselves. Right. If we haven't fully vetted people, we as a title company here are actually taking the stance that we're no longer offering that service. So we're not allowing you to do that with your own notary, because another problem has been the fake notarizations. People have been faking notaries. So they just stamp that they've somehow obtained, either printed it themselves, created it themselves, or we've seen all different types of stuff in this industry, from notarizations, just somebody stealing it off of some custodian person stealing it off of the desk and selling it to their neighbor, to somebody going to Staples and printing one because Staples didn't vet it. There's been a lot of different problems with notarizations, where if we send our notary somebody with an insurance policy, an errors and omissions insurance policy, to cover them if they can't get past if they can't get if they can't provide the right identification to the notary to confirm that this is the identity, it's something that we like to have our own notaries go to, or at least somebody that we independently hire, right? So we might not know every notary that we send to somebody in Georgia or New York or Columbia, but at least I called a random law firm, or I called a random notarization company and had them meet my person. And there's at least a little bit of non-collusion in that regards, you know?
So before you sum, I just want to let people know, this is just one of the many reasons you never take a quitclaim deed. Just don't even think about it. Don't take a quitclaim deed from anyone but your mother, I always say. It's a very rare case where you should be pressured into taking a quitclaim deed from someone wanting to sell land, period.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. That is really something that you need to speak to a real estate attorney about when you're going to be buying something without title insurance. When we're doing title insurance, there are very, very, very few. And I mean, in my career doing this for almost 20 years, and doing, you know, almost 8,000 real estate transactions, I've probably accepted a quitclaim deed for a full transfer of a property maybe twice in my entire career. And those were probably very extenuating circumstances, for very unique reasons. Either somebody got it in a very unique way, or they couldn't necessarily, they couldn't warrant the transfer. But what I can tell you is, even in those cases, the quitclaim deed was something that we very, very saw as a red flag once it was requested. It's not even an option on the FAR contract. So when you're looking at the standard real estate contract in Florida, it's not an option. Quitclaim deed, it's warranty deed, special warranty deed, and that's it. So, you know.
So summarize for us, Jim. This is really, this is amazing.
Okay, so to summarize, property fraud, real estate property fraud is everywhere. Make sure that you are doing the following things to identify that you are dealing and doing business with the right person when making an offer. One, vet the source. Is it Zillow? Is it, you know, one of the websites that you can just list property on, or is it Craigslist? If it's one of these things, why are these people doing it? Asking good questions is important. So first step, vetting your source, asking why they're using this service instead of actually listing the property. That can usually buy you equity in a legitimate transaction as well. The second thing is get identification. Ask the seller for a copy of their identification and come up with whatever excuse. If you want to use the title company as a scapegoat, saying our title company would like a copy of your ID along with the contract, get a copy of the ID. Look at the ID, make sure it matches. 3, call, get that person on the phone. 4, put the phone number into Google and see what comes out. Can you put somebody's phone number into Google? And if that name pops up on one of those identification finding websites, that is a pretty good indicator you're dealing with the right person. If it isn't, and again, it's not perfect, but it is a good way to think at least that you're confident getting to the next step and giving it to your title professional, your real estate attorney, your title company, to start doing the vetting for you. But you don't want to waste a bunch of time getting something under contract negotiating if you're not actually doing it with the right person.
Right.
All right. 4th thing, ask the questions or ask for confirmation that would show ownership, that they have had ownership, that they have proved that they pay utilities on the property, that they pay real estate taxes. Have they been mowing the lawn? Do they have a receipt for the lawnmower guy? Do they have a receipt for the fence guy if there's a fence on there and it went up? Is there trash on there? Ask them what kind of trash is on the property. And maybe if they don't know if there's any trash on the property, 1, they need to get rid of it. 2, they should probably know if it looks like it was there for a reason, right? So that's another proof kind of thing. So, the last part of this in summary, trust your gut. If it doesn't feel right, and the deal's too good, it's probably not real. It's too good to be true. So I'm Jim from Independent Title. You can always give us a call and talk about these issues if you have them. But I'm going to tell you, I told you so if you send a property from Zillow to me. So if it doesn't have a real estate agent, it's just getting bad out there. So be aware.
Okay, Jim, what's the best website for you to?
So you can find me at flbesttitle.com. You can Google Florida's Best Title Company and we'll come up. You can find us at Independent Title, where we are Florida's Best Title Company. And my website is right there, www.flbesttitle.com. And that will bring you to my main website. You can check out a bunch of resources, and there's great tools on there, including a closing cost calculator to help you calculate your closing costs when you're dealing with the right people. and, getting your deals done.
All right, Jim, thanks a lot. And to everybody watching, please know that they're out there and they're after you. So use your precautions. Don't waste your time. Spend a little time vetting up front, and then you'll know you have a deal. Because guess what? There's always another deal. All right. Thanks, Jim. Have a great one. See you soon.
Thank you, Jim.
Bye.